Now, the call to have the statue of Cecil John Rhodes removed has sparked a nationwide debate about the country's statues and memorabilia in general. Earlier this month, students from the University of Cape Town demanded that the statue of Rhodes be taken down as it serves as a reminder of colonial dispossession and oppression of Africans and is not in line with the institutions of racial rebirth. The campaign grew and gathered support from politicians, fellow students and the public at large, all taking to social media using hashtags Rhodes must fall and Rhodes so white to voice their views and opinions. The University of Cape Town and all stakeholders are meeting today to discuss the future of this statue. Now, here on Newsroom, we've had a lot of traction on social media and calls as well as emails from you, our viewers, around the national debate on statues. And from our Cape Town studios, well, we are joined by the CEO of the South African Heritage Resources Agency, Veliswa Baduza, to discuss laws around, well, that govern the country's statues. A very good morning to you, Veliswa. I thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Evan, and thank you for having me.
Just give us a sort of background. What does the legislation look like that that governs the erection of and statues?
Well, South Africa, before 1994, had a National Monuments Council, which was governed by the related legislation in terms of government of monuments in the country. And then after 1994, there was a lot of engagement with heritage practitioners as well as relevant stakeholders, and the discussion on a white paper on culture ensued. And the culmination thereof was the establishment of, or the promulgation of the National Heritage Resources Act 25 of 1999, which then established us as the South African Heritage Resources Agency. So the legislation, the primary legislation that governs the erection of statues throughout the country, monuments, memorials, is therefore the National Heritage Resources Act of 1999. And it is very explicit in terms of what needs to happen to look after the national estate.
Now, can an individual or an organization request to have a statue taken down? And if so, what is the procedure?
Well, I mean, they can request firstly to have a statue erected. They can request for a memorial to be erected. They can also as well, any South African citizen can also as well request for a statue to be removed. But then let's understand that in terms of the National Heritage Resources Act, there are 3 tiers in management of our national estates, including our statues. The first tier is through the South African Heritage Resources Agency ourselves, and then the second, that is at a national level. And then the second one, it is at a provincial level, which is through the various provincial heritage resources authorities that are throughout the 9 provinces. And the last one is through their respective local authorities. So a South African citizen can approach their respective local authority to say that I would like to have a statue erected, for instance. And they would have to provide a nomination and motivate for the significance of that particular idea or request. Equally, if there is a request, as you are asking, for a statue to be moved or removed, they would also have to approach the relevant authority. So you approach that, you make that application for the statue to be removed, and then you then have to consult the relevant stakeholders with regards to that. You would know and understand who are the affected persons or the relevant stakeholders that you have to consult. But also there has to be a public participation, there has to be a public debate for about 30 days in terms of gaining views and support and opinion around that particular application or request.
Now, as the South African Heritage Resources Agency, how do you view what is going on at the University of Cape Town now?
I think that first and foremost, it's an indication that South Africans are really taking note of the national estate. And in terms of our legislation, we also have to ensure that the communities know about, are aware about the national estate. And also, as you know, national estate is also giving us some form of identity, some form of memorializing, you know, whoever we want to put up there. And it's focused, so to speak. So it's a good gesture for us to have South Africans talking about our national estate. And therefore, we are observing and looking, and I must say, Aidan, that this particular statue, for instance, is under the authority of the Provincial Heritage Resources Agency, which is Heritage Western Cape. So the application has to be channeled through Heritage Western Cape, and the whole processes that I alluded to earlier on have to be followed. But also we would have to comment as South African Heritage Resources Agency, because the Western Cape would then approach us for comment as well. So we really appreciate the debate, and we would like South Africans, as I said, as part of our mandate, to take part and interest in the national estate.
Are you going to get involved?
As I said, in terms of our jurisdiction, we would comment when we receive such a request from the Western Cape Heritage Resources Authority.
I thank you for joining us today. That's the CEO of the South African Heritage Resources Agency, Veliswa Baduza, joined us live from Cape Town to give us, well, the official view with regards to taking down a statue or even putting up a statue. So if there's any of you that want to have a statue of me put up somewhere, please, that's the lady to talk to. Let's have a quick look at your tweets.